Hey toy fans and X-Men fans alike, D21 Beast here, back with part 3 of my X-Men movie retrospective. Now if you missed the first two parts that I've done here, I'm going to go ahead and put cards on the video as this is playing. You'll also be able to get links to those videos below. But what I've been doing here is walking down memory lane, looking at memorabilia attached to each one of the X-Men films that came out. We of course did the first X-Men movie and we did X2. Now we're on to X-Men The Last Stand. And just like with those first two videos, I've got buttons for X-Men The Last Stand as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. Now I don't have all the buttons in the collection, but I do have a Beast button to start with here. And you'll see here that Beast is displayed here in the center. It does say X-Men The Last Stand. Now, different from the previous two movies, we don't have the character's name or even the movie release date on the button. But what's interesting to note about the Beast button is that they've apparently taken an image of Kelsey Grammer from something else and put it on top of another image of Beast that already existed. It's like they took a frame from the movie and decided that the Beast image wasn't good enough, so they put a new Beast image on top of it, and you can still see the remnants of the old Beast here over the shoulder here, where there's too many stripes and the shoulder's just a little bit higher. Even in between the torso and the arm there, you can see some blue fur, so it's kind of interesting that they've chosen to put the button together that way. But then the Wolverine button that I've got here fares much nicer. You see here he's got just some sort of, I don't know, blowing, dusty, weathery background behind him, I guess, but he is just a nice image of Hugh Jackman. I do think they took a separate image of the actor and set it on some sort of film still here as well, but I don't see another Hugh Jackman Wolverine behind this one, so I think this button actually looks a lot better. Both of these buttons do have holes in the back and the pin here. I've not worn them, but these are the two buttons I have for X-Men The Last Stand, and I do think they had buttons for Juggernaut and Magneto and Mystique and Jean Grey, but these are the ones that I've got. Alright, let's go ahead and talk X-Men Toys. So just like with X-Men 1 and X2, there was a dedicated figure line for both of those films, and Toy Biz produced some nice looking figures for each one of them, I think. But with X-Men The Last Stand, there had been a few changes behind the scenes. Toy Biz no longer had the license to create Marvel toys, and instead Hasbro had picked up the license. Now, Hasbro actually used molds that Toy Biz had already designed for X-Men The Last Stand, and that's what you see here, these figure designs. Hasbro was relatively new to creating Marvel figures, and they had produced these X-Men figures as part of the Marvel Legends toy line, not as part of a dedicated X-Men 3 line. So we didn't get as many figures for X-Men The Last Stand as we did for the first two films. In fact, this is pretty much the entire collection of figures that was available. The only one I'm missing is Juggernaut. What you see here, though, are figures for the Kelsey Grammer Beast, the Daniel Cudmore Colossus, and the Famke Janssen Dark Phoenix. And honestly, I think calling her Dark Phoenix is a bit of a stretch. She really seemed more to me like Willow the Witch from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She didn't really evoke anything Phoenix-like in the movie. Unfortunately, with the shift in toy company, we also got sort of a shift in quality. These X-Men figures definitely feel cheaper and like they're made with cheaper plastic. The joints don't move as well as I'd like them to. In fact, this Colossus arm just feels really flimsy and the joints just kind of... It's hard to explain, you have to feel it, I guess. But they just don't feel as solidly constructed as the original X-Men figures, and I don't think the paint applications are as nice. As I bring in this Toy Biz created Wolverine figure, you're going to notice that the paint applications on the face actually appear to be much nicer. I think the sculpted detail actually came out better on the Toy Biz created figure than they did on the Hasbro figures, and overall I think it just looks a lot better than what we got with the figures for X-Men The Last Stand that you see here. Also, Hasbro hadn't quite yet perfected creating a 6-inch Marvel Legends scale figure, and it shows in this Jean figure especially. The flowing fabric is just really stiff. I mean, it does move, but it's kind of in the way of the figure's legs, and it's actually very hard if you move her feet at all to get her standing. It took me a little bit to actually get her standing for this video, so they did have its issues with this toy line. But it was nice to get additional characters for your X-Men movie collection that either didn't exist or weren't made available when X-Men 2 was in theaters. Now let's talk licensed video games. Just like with X-Men 1 and X-Men 2, we did get a licensed video game for X-Men The Last Stand called X-Men The Official Game. Now the difference between this game and the first two is while X-Men 1 may have had a tie-in game that featured characters and elements of that movie, but not really featured the movie story at all, and X-Men 2 just featured the likeness of Hugh Jackman on the cover and had nothing inside to do with the movie at all. X-Men The Official Game is special because it serves as sort of an interquel between X2 and X-Men The Last Stand. Now in this game you'll actually play as Hugh Jackman Wolverine, Alan Cumming Nightcrawler, or Shawn Ashmore Iceman, and all three of those actors do lend their voice to the game. Even Patrick Stewart is back providing his voice as Professor X. But this game actually features 3 different gameplay styles that we didn't get with the first two. Wolverine is actually an action slasher brawler sort of game where you clear out rooms. That actually is kind of like X2 Wolverine's Revenge, but I do feel like X2 Wolverine's Revenge handled that gameplay style much better than X-Men The Official Game did. But then we have 2 alternate game styles. When you play as Nightcrawler, you're actually doing much more stealth-like gameplay, and you're teleporting from different points and trying not to be seen, and you have these great combos that you'll build up once you sneak up on guys. A really fun game, and I actually think that the Nightcrawler gameplay segments in this game prove that Nightcrawler could have had a game unto himself, and I'm really sorry he didn't, but those segments are the best to play in this game. But then unfortunately we get the Iceman segments, and I'm a big Iceman fan, but every Iceman segment in this game is on rails, and it has timed checkpoints that are infuriatingly frustrating to actually complete. In fact, if you're going to play this game just so you can see the story, I would recommend when you get to the Iceman segments, play on the easiest difficulty. You'll still probably have to play a few of the missions over and over again just to hit those checkpoints, but it'll at least allow you to get through the slog of those levels. But apart from the Nightcrawler gameplay, which is fantastic, I will say that this game's worth checking out just for this story. What's interesting about this game is that you'll find out why Nightcrawler was suddenly missing after X2 and not in X-Men The Last Stand. You'll see Iceman basically training and becoming better at using his powers, which explains why he's a full class member in the third movie. And then you've got Wolverine just doing what Wolverine does best, going on missions, trying to track down people related to his past, and just cutting people up. There are some pretty cool cameos from other characters in the X-Men universe while you're playing this game. You will see Storm and Colossus show up. You'll never play as them, they're just assist characters. And then you do have bosses like Magneto and other characters you'll recognize that show up during the course of this game. Even Sentinels show up, even though we didn't see them in the movies until X-Men Days of Future Past. Finally, we get to the home video release of the X-Men The Last Stand. On the left here, you're going to see the collector's edition of the DVD, and then on the right, you've got the Blu-ray. Let's start by taking a look at the DVD. Now, this is the collector's edition, as I mentioned. This is not the standard release, but the standard release of the film is included with this collector's edition. You have a nice slipcover here that does show Wolverine's claws. You rotate it around here, it is just completely clear on the back. It slides off very easily. And then you've got this sort of door presentation, which is kind of cool. And as you open it up, you're going to see that you have a ton of shots here of the X-Men from the end of X-Men The Last Stand. Now, there's a couple of weird things going on with this image. You'll see here that Mystique's got some strangely long hair that she never actually had in the movies. Not sure what that's about. Also, you're going to notice that if you count up all the X-Men and all the actors, they all seem present here, but then we still have 2 additional X-Men in the background. What that is an alternate image of Rogue, and they've actually just changed her hair to be completely white. And the exact same image of Iceman that we have right here. I guess they felt like they had to balance the team out on the left or something. I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe because of all of these Morlock members here in the back. But still, it's a pretty cool sort of gatefold opening. Flipping the package around, on the spine here, you can see we do have Wolverine's hand in the name of the movie. But flipping this package around, I still have the pack-in that told you what all the features were on the movie. Let's go ahead and pull that off really quick. But underneath it, you can see you've just got Wolverine's claws tearing through the back of the box. So let's go ahead and slide out what's in this box. You've got a couple of cool things here. The first thing you've got is this original, well, it's partly original graphic novel. You have some reprints of some classic issues of X-Men. The first issue, and then you have the first issue with the Brotherhood, and then there's an issue, the third one in here from Classic X-Men is when they fought the Avengers. But in the very back, there's actually an original story written by Stan Lee. Come on, let's flip to it here. Which has Stan Lee basically talking about how he would choose to write the X-Men today. It's actually a pretty funny, tongue-in-cheek sort of story. There's a lot of great guest artists on here, though. You've got Lionel Yu, and several other artists that I'm forgetting at the moment. But basically, it's a really, really fun story, worth checking out. And it was actually reprinted at one point in an X-Men volume that came out around 2006. I forget which one that is, I'm sorry guys, but if you look out there, you can definitely find this without having to get the collector's edition of the movie. Now for the DVD. So this DVD is the standard release of the DVD widescreen version that was available at the time. Here in 2006, we were still getting full screen versus widescreen as available as separate options for those who are interested. But this is the standard widescreen version of the movie. It's got commentary on there and a few deleted scenes. But what's interesting about this DVD is that there were a ton of special features that were not available on the US release of this movie. In fact, I had a friend at the time who had a region-free DVD player that actually imported the UK version of this movie just so they could get all the special features that were missing. And when they did the Blu-ray release of this movie, they actually included all the special features that were missing are on this Blu-ray. Why they weren't in the American version, I don't know. It was really strange. But as we look at the box cover here, you're going to see that we have the X-Men and some of the villains lined up. Inside, you can see we just have a disc kind of repeating that artwork. Interestingly, the insert just shows the scene selection. There's nothing more fancy than that. And then we've got a bunch of ads for other 20th Century Fox products. And on the back here, you can see more of the secondary mutants and villains from the movie. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Blu-ray. Now, here on the Blu-ray, we do have some additional promotional images of the X-Men. Also, it's interesting to note, Angel, who never actually wears an X-Men costume in this movie, is wearing it in a lot of the promotional materials for the movie. You can see it here, also repeated here on the DVD. Just interesting to note. Obviously, they had planned, I guess, for him to have a bigger role if they ever made another movie, although Brett Ratner was telling us this was the last one. So, just interesting that they chose to promote the character that way. Inside, though, we've got a repeat of some of the characters from the front, heroes on disc 1, and then just the port characters on disc 2. And on the back here, it'll tell you that there are 2 discs here. Everything that you see here on disc 2 was actually the content that was missing the first time this movie was released on home video in the US. But those are the home video versions. I don't believe there was any major release between the DVD and the Blu-ray versions of these movies. But despite what you think of the quality of X-Men The Last Stand, I do think that this collector's edition with the opening gatefold doors and the slide-on, Wolverine claw packaging, I thought that was pretty cool. I'm glad that I have that as part of my collection. Alright, toy fans and X-Men fans alike, that is my collection for items related to X-Men The Last Stand. As I've said in my previous videos, I don't claim to have everything out there, but what I do have I think is pretty cool, and I definitely wanted to show it off with you guys. Were there any sort of trinkets or memorabilia that I missed that were pretty important? Anything cool that you guys have in your collection? Definitely let me know in the comments below. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch my collection videos and kind of relive the X-Men films with me. If you like what you saw here today, please feel free to share this video with your friends, rate it, subscribe to me. Your support is very much appreciated. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.